Welcome to the Big Movement Podcast. If you're ready to create results and make huge strides in your business, finances, personal development, and health, then you're in the right place. Pushing past excuses and powering through procrastination can be a challenge alone. Here, you'll get the support, tools, and knowledge you need to get to the level you desire in your business and life. Let's get started with your host, Byron Ingram.
And welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today we have Tommy Lanham, who is a speaker, author, and personality style strategist. He has a master's in life coaching from Liberty University. He empowers teams, couples, and individuals who hunger for their God-given potential to make that climb to their highest peak. So we're going to learn how people can climb to that highest peak and really understand personalities, because everybody has one and it's best we know how to use them. So Tommy, welcome.
Thank you very much, Byron. I appreciate you having me on your show.
Sure, definitely. So how did you get into this world, as it sounds quite fascinating here?
Well, back in probably 97 to 2000, I began to get into some of personal development type stuff. The first book I read was a book by Jack Lanham. No relation because he spells his name funny, but the title of the book was Untapped Potential. And when I read that book, it just kind of set me on a journey of personal growth and personal development. And I began to read Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy and Dennis Waitley and John Maxwell and all those guys. And it just began to make a difference, really to begin with, in how I saw myself. And then once that difference in how I saw myself took place, well, then my actions began to change as well.
Okay, how did your actions start changing?
Well, with the confidence that comes from seeing myself in a different way, I began to branch out in areas that I had never really thought of before. My background is in ministry. I went to college to get a degree in ministry, and I was working in the church for a few years, and I never really saw myself extending really beyond that until some of that started changing for me. I was always an average student at best. I'm one of those guys that squeezed a 4-year college degree into 6. And yes. and there was even a point in my college career that I was asked to leave because my grades were so poor. And through the grace of God and Johnson Bible College, they let me come back, and I actually improved my grades, but it still wasn't anything to really brag about. It was very average. But as my view of myself began to change, that aspect of my life began to change. And so I started a ministry in 2000 where I worked beyond the church walls. I began to travel around and do seminars and leading workshops and stuff like that. And the longer I did that, the more the passion and enthusiasm for that grew inside of me. And I was actually taking a class in working for a master's in counseling when I came across this thing known as life coaching. And the more I began to read about life coaching, the more I realized that's more of what I want to do rather than counseling. So I finished up that class, and then I looked for a life coach training school. They didn't offer life coaching in any type of university at that time, and this is probably 2005. And so I went to the Coaching Academy of North America as an online class and teleclasses, and took that, got that certification, began doing life coaching and speaking on a part-time basis. And then just a couple of years ago, I found out that Liberty University actually offers a master's degree in life coaching. And so this sixth grade flunky. I flunked the sixth grade, and the person who took 6 years to get a 4-year degree decided to torture myself and go back to school. However, by this time, I had matured in the view of myself. Back in 97 to 2000, that was just kind of birthed. By this time, I feel like I had matured in that and went back to school, got my master's degree, did it in about a year and a half, and finished with a 4.0 in that. And from there, I have continued to move forward with the speaking and the coaching, and to the point that here I am with Byron Ingram wanting to interview me on his podcast. So,
well, I think that's quite a heck of a journey to end up right here.
There you go.
It's fascinating though that how you made that transformation where you had to have a do-over in the sixth grade, but then to turn around years later and be able to get a 4.0 in a master's degree program. What was it, if you're looking back, changed? Because there's so many people that they might have had the right role models, not have had the right people believing in them when they were younger. So they might have always thought, well, I'm just not good at this school thing. But you've kind of proved that it doesn't matter how you start off. Everybody has that possibility to go from like being asked from one school, maybe it's best if you don't come back, to finishing with a 4.0. That's a dramatic difference.
Right. I grew up, and I think oftentimes people grow up as well. When we're little kids, we're encouraged to dream. However, about the time we get into middle school or high school, adults begin to say, well, we need to be practical. And I say, man, God, please save us from practical people. Because they tend to see the word practical and the word mediocre or average as synonyms. And so that's the way I saw myself. And when I began to read and listen to some of these guys that have made a significant difference not only in their own lives but in the lives of other people, that's when the view of myself began to change. And so continuing to feed my mind with that positive information in order to overcome what I had been fed previously. Because we tend to believe what we hear the most. And so if we're growing up hearing, let's be practical, or you can't do this, or this, just all these limiting beliefs that we are fed, and then we begin to feed ourselves those limiting beliefs. I always said to myself, I'm an average student at best. And as long as I saw myself that way, that's the way I performed, as an average student at best. But when I began to listen to some of this different information, it began to change the way I saw myself. And, kind of what I said before, once I changed how I saw myself, it changed the way I performed. It changed the way I acted. And so that's really the transformation that I went to. It was originally a mental process of gradually, it didn't happen overnight, but it happened over a period of time where I began to see myself differently, and as a result began to perform differently as well.
And that in itself is so powerful, because you look at the number of people that are fed limiting beliefs because of one thing. You think of if someone had a bad day at school and just said, maybe you're not cut out for this math thing or this school thing. And at that impressionable age, like, maybe you're right. And before you know it, someone goes from having a world of potential to nothing.
Right.
And you look at throughout history, the number of people, if they would have believed what someone told them, what would have happened? You look at Einstein. If he believed what people had told him in the beginning, well, maybe this math thing is not so good for you.
Right.
Look at what would not have happened because of it. All because of someone else's limiting beliefs.
That's exactly right. And I encourage people, your past does not determine your future. Just because you've messed up in the past doesn't mean your future has to be messed up. And you learn from those failures. I not only do I view myself differently now, but I approach things differently now, and especially academics. I approach it in a different light, and just the way I go about things are different. Once I came to the understanding that my past does not determine my future. If my past determined my future, then my master's degree experience would have been similar to my college experience, and my high school experience, and my middle school experience. But because I made those changes, because of a different view of myself, and because I did not feel that my past determined my future, it influences me, definitely. I don't completely forget my past, but some of those failures that I experienced in the past actually motivate me now to do even better in what I set out to do.
Oh, yes. And that is what we have to look at, is how can we use our past to motivate us, that it drives us to move further away from that, because we all have that potential. And so many people, they never do anything to make it happen.
Right.
It's because those limiting beliefs, they use it as anchors, like, well, I'm not good enough. And it also stems from, because if no one believes in them, think about the times in your life that something was really hard to do, and there's times like you just want to say, screw it, and you didn't want to do it, but you had someone believe in you and say, yes, you can. And then you believe, like, you know what, you're right, I can do it. And next thing you're like, holy crap, I did it.
Exactly.
But we have to change the people we surround ourselves with to make that work.
That's a significant point as well. Changing the people that you are around. It's said that you are the average of the 10 people you spend the most time with. And so, if you're wanting to make significant changes in your life, you've got to change who you spend the most time with. And I'm not saying you completely cut certain people out of your life, although that may be true in some cases. For instance, anybody who is dealing with some kind of addiction, one of the things that they strongly emphasize is that you've got to develop new relationships. Because if you go back to those same old relationships, no matter how excited and enthusiastic you are about the positive changes in your life, if you go back to those old relationships, you are much more likely to go back to those old habits. If you want to establish new habits, you need to make new relationships. And find people that are at a place where you want to be and connect with those people. In most cases, it's not true in every case, but in most cases, those people are more than willing to team up with you and help you get from where you are to where you want to be. I think that's one of the significant aspects of working with a coach, is you've got somebody who's not pushing you but pulling you forward to develop new habits and reach new levels that maybe you haven't reached before, because you've never been around people who are at that level. So, whatever you're wanting to do, find other people that are either on that journey, or even better yet, have already walked that journey and know what it takes to get there. Because, and I believe what people say, that you are the average of the 10 people that you spend the most time with.
And that's so true. You look at how many people they continue to hold on to old relationships. It's like, but I can't let them go. We've been friends since we were like 2, and it's like 30 years later. But some people have forgotten that. Look at how far you have yet to go, where that person has made that mental decision. They are totally content where they are, and they're not changing. that you can't force them to change. It's like you can just say, I'm going to keep pushing you forward, and you're kicking and screaming the whole time and you're not going to do anything, versus that person that says, I'm doing this. It's either you're with me or you're being left behind.
Right. Right.
And it's hard for people to do because they think that, oh no, that means I'm not going to be friends with them. It's not a matter of not being friends with somebody. It's a matter of you have to decide who you're spending your time with. We all have the same 24 hours each day. I've yet to meet one person that has more.
Yes.
And if someone knows how to, create an extra hour, I'd love to hear about it. But I haven't figured that one out yet myself. I think if someone did that, that's like $1 trillion idea. I have created the perfect tool. You'll have 1 extra hour every single day. And even if you did it, there'd be some people like, yes, I can get an hour's worth of more productivity in. And then there'll be some others like, I can sleep 1 more hour.
That is true.
It's just how it goes. I'd be kind of scratching my head like, wait a second, you have an hour more every day to do something else and you want to sleep? Whoa.
Right. It's just a different mindset.
Right. Exactly. And when speaking of that, which is one of those interesting things in terms of making things happen. When you look at sleeping, if a person sleeps an average of, let's say, 8 hours a night, that works out to being approximately 121 days of the year they're sleeping. And if someone can be able to optimize their sleep and get, have the same effectiveness in 5 hours, that results in them only sleeping about 75 days a year.
Wow.
Which is substantial. If you think about having over a month and a half more productivity every single year because you make one little adjustment.
Right.
So to me, people are like, but shouldn't you sleep more? I don't want to lose that much of my life sleeping.
Right.
When there's so much you can do, the people you can connect with, the things you can do, and so forth. Like, I can relax in so many other ways, but you have to look at how can you optimize yourself to make more happen.
Right. And I think the word that you've used there a couple of times is a key word: optimize. How do you optimize the time that you are awake? And when you sleep well, be comfortable.
Yes.
Don't waste your time sleeping. Some people, they try to stay awake as long as they can watching TV at night, and they fall asleep watching the TV. That's not a restful sleep.
Right.
When it's time to sleep, go to sleep. Make sure the room is dark or whatever puts you in your most comfortable state, and optimize that sleep. And that way, when you wake up, you're more refreshed and you're more ready to go, so you can then in turn optimize the time that you're awake.
Right, exactly. It blows my mind the number of people say, but I have to have the TV on when I go to sleep, but I sleep like 8 hours a night. Like, maybe there's a reason for it. And then here's the other thing you think about. The mind doesn't shut off. So imagine someone going to sleep with one of the news stations on, and so while they're sleeping, their mind is being fed all the negativity that's being put out there.
Right.
And they wake up in a bad mood. And then we're like, I don't know, how come I wake up being so mad and angry? Maybe there's a clue that's in your room.
Yeah, my wife and I, we made a commitment before we were married that we were never going to have a TV in our bedroom, and we don't.
Yeah.
We don't want to be tempted with that habit of watching TV till you fall asleep and then you wake up in the middle of the night and maybe turn it off because it does disturb your sleep. I tell you, one of the things that I do, I have a CD player, and yes, I'm one of the old-fashioned guys that still play CDs from time to time, but I've got a CD player beside my bed, and I will put in a book or a seminar or something like that is positive information that's going to help me get from where I am to where I want to be. And I listen to that until it runs out as I go to sleep. Now, I don't put it on continuous because, again, even the positive stuff can disturb your sleep if you have it playing all night. But I have it to where it plays until the end of the CD and then it shuts off. And so even as I'm going to sleep, I'm feeding my mind with positive thoughts, which makes me more likely to wake up with positive thoughts when I get up in the morning.
Right. And that in itself is powerful because the thoughts we leave ourselves when we're going to sleep, it really impacts what we're capable of. One of the things that I started doing previously, it was originally I would just journal in the mornings, but now I'm doing a little bit of journaling at the end of the day so I can start pre-programming my mind of what is it that I want to be thinking about when I'm going to sleep. So I start off with that idea because you look back in life of how many times you'd wake up either in the middle of the night or first thing morning, like, yes, I figured it out, because your mind was working on that problem the
Right.
whole time you were sleeping.
Yeah.
But sometimes we don't give ourselves the opportunity to dive into it. But
Yeah.
that's just something we have to do.
That's true. It's true.
It's the more we do to optimize our life, the better. So when you look back on everything, how did you decide to incorporate personalities into the mix? Because there's people that talk about personalities, but not everybody really wants to dive into it.
Right. I tell you, the day that my daughter was born, she was born in 2003, December the 20th. I was sitting in the hospital with both of my parents, and I asked them. I said, you guys have raised 5 kids. Do you have any parenting advice for me? And my dad looked at me, and he said, raise them up according to their personality. And then he said, that's where I went wrong with you. and then he said to me, he said, I thought I was raising a typical boy. Little did I know I was raising up a son with the heart of a poet. And that's always stuck with me, not only in parenting, but in every area of life. Because I believe that each one of us has different wiring in our minds. And understanding our personality, some people use type, I like to say style. It's our style. It's who we are. It's how we communicate with people. It's how we're energized and motivated. It's how we prioritize. It's how, we make decisions. And all of us go about that a little differently. And most of the stuff that you read on personalities typically break up personalities into 4 major personalities. And then obviously you've got some variations within those 4. And I don't want to insinuate that I believe that the human experience can be compartmentalized into 4 general areas. We're much more complex than that. However, there's been much study done in personality styles, and we know that in general there are 4 major categories of personality styles. And different people look at things and operate in different ways. For instance, the things that necessarily work for me, and we've had kind of a discussion on this, I think it's in the coaching jungle, where we actually connected on self-talk, and how that self-talk can help you. And some people argue that it's excellent, and other people argue, and intelligent people argue that, well, it's not really that effective, to be honest with you. And my argument is, I believe they're both right. It just depends on who you're talking with. For me, in the way that I'm wired, self-talk has been a major part of that transformation that we talked about earlier. It's helped me to see myself differently. But other people, when they try it or attempt it, and again, there's even different ways of doing self-talk, it has not been that effective. And when I'm coaching people through that process, I encourage them, try it this way, standing in a mirror and doing self-talk where you're actually looking yourself in the eye. Some people, it works better if they record some self-talk and then listen to that as it goes. Some people, it helps if they They put post-it notes at different places with just short little self-talk phrases, and when they see them, they read it, and it feeds their minds. But it's a matter of looking at how it works best for you, because we are all wired differently. And if we could best understand that, and I'm a big component of, the 4 letters that is oftentimes used by Myers-Briggs. It's used by others as well. Myers-Briggs don't have a hold on that, but that's kind of where it was birthed out of, the Myers-Briggs, where you look and see, if you're introverted or extroverted, whether you are a concrete communicator or you are an abstract communicator, whether you're a thinker or a feeler, whether you're more of a scheduled person or whether you're more of a spontaneous person. Man, if you can understand yourself in those 4 different areas, it can make a drastic difference in the way that you approach life, and it helps you to understand the frustrations that you've had with life so far, and it can help you make adjustments in those areas so that you can live a more fulfilled life if you better understand your personality style.
Right. It's so vital to do that, because I think it's something that just not just in life but in business, people don't take the time to understand, because the way people process information is based on their personalities. So it's so critical as we're building teams or surrounding us with the right people, they have the right thought process. Like I like to jokingly say, because at such a high level of drive to get things done, make things happen, for a balance, when I look for people that are supporting me, they have to be that extreme detailed person and think about the stuff that, honestly, my mind's like, that's a little small detail. Like, I don't care. Just make it work. Like, my mind is like this. I look at a light switch. I just want it to work. I don't care how it's wired or what has to go through it. Just make it work.
Right.
Well, you have to have someone that's going to be willing to look at all the little details to see, well, what type of circuit should it be? What type of wiring should it be? How do you make sure you regulate the current through the wiring so you don't burn anything out? You have to have that balance.
Right.
Because that's the only way that you're able to be successful. Is you have to focus on, your strengths, and you have to build upon it, and then leverage the strengths of others. It always blows my mind when I hear people say, you need to work on your weaknesses. No. You surround yourself with people that's their strength. Like, why am I going to spend something that it's a weakness for a reason? I'm not going to worry about it.
Right.
Because that's trying to be a one-man army. There's no reason for that in today's world. If you focus on building a team of people, now everyone's more successful.
Yes. One of the things that I like to explain to people is we need well-balanced teams, but we don't need well-balanced individuals. Oftentimes people teach that. Well, you need to be well-balanced. No, be unbalanced.
Right.
I like to say, well-rounded people have no point. And I want people who have a point. I want somebody who is good at something that's going to pour themselves into that. Find out what you're good at. Find out what it is you do well, and pour yourself into that. Now there is something to be said about doing some maintenance. Sometimes we do need to work a little bit on our weaknesses, but what I explain to people is I say, spend about 80% of your time working on your strengths. Find out what you're good at and get even better. Spend about 20% or less on your weaknesses. We have to do a little maintenance from time to time, but you don't want to spend the majority of your time there. You're wasting your gifts, your strengths, when you do that. I love the analogy that John Maxwell uses. He says, on a scale of 1 to 10, if you look at an area of your life and you work really hard at that, he said you might be able to move it up about 2 spots. And he says, when you think about that, if you're looking at something that you're a 2 in and you work really hard at it, you might get up to a 4, which is right about average. And he says, not many people really expect much from average. However, if you're a 7 in something and you work really hard at it, you could possibly get up to a 9. And he says people pay big money for 9s. And I just love that analogy, because oftentimes, like you said, we get that thing reversed. What we're good at, we say, oh, I can do that. I don't have to worry about that. What I need to work on is this over here, because that's where I'm not very good. I believe we have it backwards. Spend most of your time working on the things that you're good at in order to get even better. And I believe that there is something out there for everyone that they do better than most other people. And once you find out what that is, become even better at it. For instance, I do public speaking, I do life coaching. You know what I read more about than anything else? Public speaking and life coaching. I take more classes on those things than anything else. I'm not a computer guy, as we found out earlier as we were trying to get this podcast started. I'm not a computer guy. And you know what I'm probably not going to do? I'm probably not going to take a computer class. My wife is a computer person. That's why I called her down. I was like, what do I need to do here? Because she knows that stuff. And we make a well-balanced team. I don't expect her to be good at things that I'm good at. She doesn't expect me to be good at things that she is good at. But we work together to be a well-balanced team.
Right. And that is so important, use that analogy with you and your wife, because right now that computers are not that greatest strength. So you can either decide to put a lot of energy into it, but then at the same time, that takes away from you getting better at public speaking and life coaching and helping people.
Right.
So you have to look at us, where is it best to spend that time? It goes back to, we still have that same 24 hours in the day. Do you want to start spending 2-3 hours every single day looking at, okay, page 1, how to turn on a computer or whatever it is.
Right.
You don't want to do that. So we have to reprioritize. Where do we want to put our energy? Because if we put it in the wrong places, we'll waste days, weeks, and months, or even years of our lives trying to become average at doing something.
Right.
I think one of the best books out there with a tool associated with it, it's the Strengths Finders test.
Yes.
Have you seen that before?
Yes. I've actually gone through that, the questionnaire and that stuff. It's amazing. It's very, very good information. I would encourage anybody that wants that they want to get out of the average, get out of the mediocre, and move forward. Several books out there, but that's definitely one at the top of the list that I would encourage people to read.
Oh, definitely. It's that for me, when I took it the first time, it was really eye-opening. Like, well, that explains a lot of things in terms of the way I like to behave, the things that I love to do. My number one trait is strategy, which makes sense because for me, coming at the strategy, it's like getting up and walking across the room. It doesn't take a lot of effort. Where some people are like, how do you do that? Like, it just comes to me. I don't have to think hard about it.
Right.
Because I look back at times in the past, just when I was in the Air Force, I'd come up with a strategy to solve a problem in minutes, where someone else look at me like, I've been trying to think of a way to do that for the past month. How the heck? And they're thinking I shot at the hips. Like, well, no, I just went through multitudes of variations of the problem in moments, because that's my greatest strength.
Right.
So and that's the thing, of when we don't take the time to understand how people think, you look at like, oh no, a person's shooting from the hip, or they don't get it, like, because they're operating off of a different blueprint than you are. So you have to understand that person instead of just saying, well, they don't think like me, so they must be different or wrong.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and one of the great things about StrengthsFinder and understanding personality styles and that type of stuff is it gives you a better understanding of others, and it gives you a better understanding of yourself. So that because our typical inclination is to expect everybody else to be like us.
Right.
And everybody else is not like us. They have strengths that we don't have. We don't need other people to be like us. We need to be the best of who we are, and we need other people to be the best of who they are.
Right. That is so true. We want people to be the best version of themselves, but too many times we want to conform people to one way of thinking, and unfortunately, that creates stagnation. If you look throughout history and you think of periods of time where for hundreds of years there weren't really any type of technological advancements, or things just kind of slowly moved along. But then, if once you look at that more, an acceptance of different thought processes, collaboration, and so forth, look at what's happened in the past 20 years in terms of technology and advancement.
Right.
Because people are embracing different personalities, different
Right.
ways of thinking, different problem solving styles, and what's possible now.
Exactly.
If you look at simple things like using computers, not to bring that up, but, but you look at what's possible. I remember seeing in a picture someone shared on Facebook last year, and it was an ad. It was actually the cover of an ad from Radio Shack from like 1990 or so, and it had all these different things from like a pager, a cell phone, to a computer, to fax machine, all these different things. It must have been about 20 different devices, and it simply said all the items in this one ad you can now do with one smartphone.
Right.
In terms of how things have advanced.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show we have to embrace that change, because if people said we have to have everything separate, well, where would we be today?
Right. Yeah. Exactly right. And those advances have come from people who are good at that immerse themselves in that. And again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, find out where your strengths are and immerse yourself in that. You know, don't spend the time wasting your time on your weaknesses. Again, using the computer analogy, since we've brought that up several times now. I need, because of what I do in our day and age, I need some level of knowledge of computers. I've got to have an operating knowledge of how they work and how it works with my business, because I do some coaching online and stuff like that as well. And so, I need a little bit of knowledge. I need to continue to grow in my knowledge of computers. However, I don't want to put the majority of my time into computers, because that's not my strengths. It's maintenance work. It's not maximizing work, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally.
Yes. And so, the reason we have the technological advances that we have today is because people like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and many others that have poured themselves into that. They're not trying to be well balanced. They're immersing themselves in those things that they're passionate about and they do well. And the whole world benefits from them doing what they're best at.
Right, exactly. You think about teams. Since you brought up Steve Jobs and Apple, you look at the iPhone and all the different products that Apple has. They have teams that are very good at doing one thing. So if you think about software, the people that are amazing at writing that creating the graphical interface and have that user experience there, it's a totally separate thing than the people who are designing the hardware. Because if you're to ask that one person who's really good at software, like, so can you design the computer itself? Like, they look at probably like, no.
Right.
Like, tell me what the requirements are, they'll program it in an instant. Tell them how to make the stuff, like, no. because that's not their specialty. And that's what we have to look at is the more we build the teams and everybody has the right personalities, the strengths, you have to have that person that has that vision, that leadership to drive the train, to keep people moving forward. But also need the detailed individuals to make sure nothing gets left behind.
Right. Yeah.
Because they only have the people who are highly detailed. The thing will never get done because they're always thinking, well, we have to fix this and do that, versus let's just get the darn thing out there. We can fix it later.
You're right.
Because you think about that aspect of in all areas of life, throughout everything we do, we've been ingrained with a series of perfection and how it holds people back. You think about through the educational system that if someone is, let's say they're not getting very good grades in school because they're not learning the right way. They're being told, well, maybe this school thing is not cut out for you. But at the same time, they might just need a different way of learning, a different way of someone being teaching to them so they can reach that full potential and follow what they really love to do instead of just being relegated to, well, you're just going to go and work at a gas station or do whatever because that's the best thing for you. And we have to stop that. We have to change it and allow people to reach their full potential, because not everyone's going to reach that potential at the same age. Like, think of how you went from one level of performance at one age to an entirely different one later on in life, because there's going to be some people that reach that intellectual peak or they figure it out of how to make things work much earlier. In others, it takes a little bit longer. We have to embrace that more. So as society, we advance further as a whole versus saying, well, sorry, buddy, you just can't do it. And little do we know, if that person would have been just nurtured a little bit longer, they might have invented the cure for some disease out there. But because they weren't nurtured, that doesn't happen.
Right. It's interesting that you brought up the school system. I think if schools would embrace the concept of students having different personality styles, that it could make a huge impact on our education system. And I think that was part of my issue as well growing up, that I wasn't aware of my personality style at that point, and I'm not sure anybody who taught me was aware of my personality style or differing personality styles at that point. But having everybody sit in rows and listen to a teacher talk and draw on the whiteboard, that's not necessarily everybody's best way of learning. To use the word we used earlier, it's not their optimal way of learning.
Right.
Different ones of us learn different ways. And nowadays when I do presentations, when I'm doing any type of training, I keep, especially those 4 major personality styles, I keep those in mind, and I try to integrate different things throughout the presentation that's going to appeal more to a specific personality style. Because if I get up there and I just teach in my own natural personality style, well, I'm going to connect with those that are similar to me, but then there's others that's going to leave thinking, man, that was a waste of time. I didn't learn anything. Not because the information wasn't good, but because I was not presenting it in a way that connected with them. And so if we are aware of different personality styles in students or participants in seminars or trainings or whatever the case may be, we can better give them that information if we are sensitive to the different personality styles that we're teaching.
Right. And that's so critical that we do that. So as we begin to wrap everything up here, what's one thing you recommend people do so that way they can get ahead based on what their capabilities are in life?
Well, I would say the one thing is just go do it. Take action. And that sounds simplistic, and I guess it is in a sense, but going back to what we were talking about earlier with limiting beliefs and fear and this belief that we can never be better than we are right now, forget about that stuff and just take action. You may fail. If you do, that's okay. Just learn from it, get up and go on. And,
Right.
And that's the thing that it took with me is once my mindset began to change, I just had to go out there and take action. Now, did I mess up a lot? Yeah, we could do a whole nother show just on the mess ups that I've had in my life. However, I also learned from those some things that I could do that I was not aware that I could.
Right.
And so my encouragement is just, take action. If you don't know what to do, just set a goal, a results-oriented goal, and write it down, and then just go take action toward it. And if it doesn't work, fine. Take a different action. But the one thing I encourage people to do is just move. Just take action.
And that is awesome because it goes back to a simple analogy. You can read a book about how to ride a bike all you want, but until you put your butt on the seat and start pedaling, it doesn't matter.
That's exactly right.
Because we live in a world where people read about it so much, but they have to overcome that fear of just doing it. Because that's when you know if it works, and if it doesn't, so what? Keep on going. It
Right.
doesn't matter because eventually you're going to do it. I jokingly like to tell people if we're taught how to do this from a very beginning age, but we're also taught of limiting beliefs. Because you think about when you first learn how to walk, did you make it across the room that first time? Probably not. You probably just fell over. Of what would life be like if that first time you fell down, you're like, well, I guess this walking thing isn't for me, and you decide to lay there and not get up.
That's true.
But you get up and you try it again.
Yeah, exactly right. And sometimes it hurts. Sometimes
Right.
when you fall, it hurts. When my son was learning how to walk, he hit the same spot in his forehead. It had to be at least 20 times, and his forehead looked like a marble right there. And he would cry and whine and all this stuff. But it never crossed our minds to go, son, this probably just isn't for you.
Right.
Never crossed our mind. And it wasn't for him either.
Right.
But somewhere along the lines,
Right.
we pick up these limiting beliefs where if we mess up or it hurts, well, we just won't try it anymore. Get up,
Right.
try it again, learn from it, try a different
Right.
approach, but by all means, try it again.
Right, exactly. Well, I want to thank you for coming to the podcast and sharing your wealth of wisdom on so many different things, and especially on getting up after you fall down, especially with your son developing that big marble on his forehead from learning how to walk. Because I think everybody has that marble, and we have to learn how to just keep doing and realize you can wear a ball cap and cover that marble up.
There you
It'll be
go.
okay. So how could people learn more about you and reach out to you?
Well, my website is just simply my name, TommyLanham.com. Plenty of information there. They can get access to my book. I've got a book called Goals, Godly Objectives, Assuring Lasting Significance. And I've actually got a new product that's coming out on the 15th here in a few days. It's called How to Talk to Weird People. And it's from the viewpoint of how to communicate with different personality styles. And so that's actually a video. It's a DVD. And so if they want either one of those, they can find those on my website, as well as the book is on Amazon.com. And feel free to write me. I'm always open to conversation. Send me an email. Again, that's on my website. It's Tommy Lanham at TommyLanham.com. Make it very, very simple. But yeah, you can get in touch with me. I'd love to hear from anybody out there. Love to talk with people.
Oh, awesome. Well, definitely. Once again, thank you for coming into the podcast today.
You're very welcome, and thank you for inviting me. It's been fun.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Big Movement Podcast today. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Now that you've surely been inspired to take your entrepreneurial career and business to the next level, you can stop by the website and get more. And if you're ready to boost your business brand, be sure to grab your free report, 7 Easy Steps to Build Your Brand Today.